Welcome to the Popish Plot. My name's Nate,
I'm Mike.
and once again, we're here with Santa Claus, our special friend. Today is Saintly Sunday. It's actually Christmas Eve, and we know you're busy, but we thought maybe you might like to go and just share some of your experiences going around Santaing with us.
One question I've always had. How long have you been a Santa?
I have personally been wearing the red suit for about 20 years.
It's pretty long. Does it pay good?
Well, people ask me that a lot. A professional Santa can typically make $2,000 or $3,000 in a season.
Wow.
If you get into something like a decent-sized mall, $5,000 isn't unheard of. If you get onto a cruise line, like a Disney cruise line or something like that, for the Christmas tour, Christmas cruise, you can make $10,000 in 6 weeks.
All right.
So, but I don't do that.
Okay.
I work for charities.
Oh.
And I'll tell you how that started.
Please.
So way back when, the youth minister here in my church used to be Santa Claus at the children's mass. As he got older and his young boys got older, he was afraid they would recognize him and that would destroy their childhood belief. And so he said he didn't want to do that anymore. Well, the DRE,
The Director of Religious Education.
what he said, started looking for a Santa. I don't know where I was on the list. I know I wasn't first. But everybody prior to me said no. I said, are you kidding me? Absolutely. I didn't have a Santa suit or anything, but the church had. And so I got all dressed up. And in our children's mass, Santa comes in at the end of mass in the back door from the narthex, and he carries with him 2 baskets, and in the baskets are religious ornaments for the children.
Okay.
So you step in and you wait till you get the go nod from Father. So for about 3 to 5 seconds, you're just standing there. And all the children nearest to you, you hear them, Santa's here, Santa's here, look, there's Santa. And of course they're very, very quiet because they're in church and that. And it starts to spread. And so Father gives me a nod and I start walking up the aisle. And still, it's like ripples on a pond, these children, little heads turning and looking at me. By the time I'm halfway up the aisle, they're all looking at me with that love that children have with Santa. And it's a physical force. It's like wading through water, and I go up and I put the baskets down. I receive communion from Father. I go over to the nativity and I kneel and I say a prayer and then I duck out the side door. In the meantime, Father reads a prepared letter from Santa that says how he'd like to stay, but he's really busy on Christmas Eve. So I jump in the minivan with my wife and my 2 daughters who still lived at home at the time. And I looked at them and I said, I got to do this again. And I was hooked. It was that easy, one time. About 2 years later, maybe even the next year, I don't know, my memory of what it used to be. But anyway, shortly after I had thrown my hat into the Santa ring, one of my friends came and asked if I could be Santa at his daughter's wedding reception, which was in late December. And I said, sure. Are you kidding? Be Santa again? So I'm in at the wedding reception there, and I'm going around and I'm passing out candy canes, I'm playing with the children and whatnot. A woman comes up to me and says, can my daughter sit on your lap and tell you what she wants for Christmas? And I said, sure. And she said, I have to tell you though, she's 30 years old, she's mentally challenged. I said, I don't care. So I got a chair and I put it by the Christmas tree and I sit down in it. Here she comes, 30-year-old woman, comes over, sits on my knee, tells me all about the doll she wants and why that one's special, just like any other 8-year-old. For about 10 minutes we talked about toys. And in the meantime, Mom and Grandma are taking pictures and crying like babies. Because their little girl doesn't get to go sit on Santa's lap in the mall.
No. Yeah.
And it had been years since she was able to sit on Santa's lap. And that's when I realized that's what I was called to be. Santa for all the other children.
That's fantastic.
So I started going out and I started learning about things. And I've worked with autistic children. I've worked with wounded warriors and their families. I've worked with hospitals, group homes for the mentally challenged. I work with an organization called Santa America, which works with hospice for children that are in hospice, that they can have Christmas whenever they need it, any time of the year. There will be a Santa there for them.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I'm registered as a hospice volunteer. And God told me, he said, go learn sign language. And I said, okay. Which I've always been interested in, yes.
Did God say it, or did God sign it?
Actually, God just put it in my head and said, move. So,
I've known that. I've known that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
The loudest thing I've ever heard was not a noise.
So I told my wife, I said, I am going to go and learn sign language. So the local community college has free tuition for people my age. And
Sweet.
they're also fairly renowned for their sign language program. So I thought, this is going to be perfect.
All to the good.
Went down there on a Saturday, and during their open house, spent 2.5 hours filling out papers, sitting on benches, to find out they had absolutely not a single class that I could attend. I'm still fully employed.
Oh.
I'm not retired. So I was a little disappointed. And so my wife and I went to pick up our prescriptions at the local mall. And while we're there, I said, let's get some lunch. We'll go to that pizzeria. We haven't been there in a year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my wife had asked me previously when I said, I want to, God told me to go learn sign language. She says, well, how do you know God told you that? And it's not just something you want to do.
It's a reasonable question.
Yeah. It's one somebody should always ask themselves when they think God's telling them something.
Well, I told her, I says, how do you know when you're in love? You can't explain it to somebody. You just know you're in love.
Fair point.
So I can't explain it to you, but I just know God told me to go learn sign language. So we go into the pizzeria and we sit down. We get our order and we're sitting there eating our pizza. And I look way across to the far corner of the pizzeria and there's about 20 people doing sign language. And I'm just looking at them. And the guy that was kind of like the center of attention, like the leader, I don't know exactly what his position would be called. But anyway, he looked at me and he did some sign. And I said, okay. So I walked over there, and at that time I had learned by reading and whatnot enough sign to know that my sign is bad. And so I went over and I did that to him, and he laughed. And he said, that's okay. I'm not totally deaf. That became a very good friendship between myself and Brian. Brian, if you're out there, Brian. So anyway, that's his sign name. And anyway, I ended up going to the college. This happened to be the sign club from one of the other colleges, local colleges. And I ended up going there. And I went there for a semester. I'm too old for my VA benefits have run out. I'm too old for loans. I'm too Anyway, I ended up just having to write checks. $1,000 a semester. So when it came to the second one, well, let me finish the pizza story first. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So as we leave the pizzeria, my wife turns to me and looks at me and she says, okay, I believe. So I went through the first semester and I just wrote check. But when it comes to the second semester, things were a little tight. And I was beginning to worry about money. And I was on my way home from class, as a matter of fact, and I said to God, I said, you wanted me to do this. I need help. Help me. When I got home, my daughter called me on the phone just minutes after I came into the house, my youngest one. And she said, I just wanted to let you know that I set up a GoFundMe site for you named Help Santa Learn Sign. And I did a couple videos for that. You know how much I made off that website? $1,000. Exactly what I needed. You ask, you get what you want.
Oh, God is good.
And I mean, I had nuns sending me $5 and $10. I had friends of my daughters and my children money here. My boss stumbled across it. I never even told him about it, but he stumbled across it. He gave me $250. He did a quarter of it in one shot. So, yeah. God takes care of you. So, I learned sign language. Last year, I was, one of my primary charities is the Old Newsboys. And you gotta love an organization whose motto is, let no child be forgotten.
There we go.
So, I was doing a charity for them, and it was at one of the local sports bars, and they had, sports bar, family restaurant, whatever. They had buffets. They had a breakfast buffet and a snack buffet, and whatever. And if you came in and made a donation to the Old Newsboys, you got a picture with Santa, and you got a free breakfast, lunch, whatever it was for you. So I'm setting up. I arrive on a fire engine, and I'm setting up in there and get my stuff together. And I look over the table over there, and there's two women and two children. And one woman's obviously the grandma, and the other one's probably the mother and two small little girls. And the mother and the two little girls are signing. So I said, there's a deaf person there. At least one deaf person over there. Well, come to find out, the mother and both little girls are deaf.
Oh.
So I went over to them and I did, which is sign for Merry Christmas. And they just stopped, like they were frozen. And then they started signing 900 minutes, and I had to say, wait, slow. I'm a sign baby. And so they stopped and they slowed down. But Mom says, Santa knows sign language. And I said, yes. Yes. And the whole rest of that day, those little girls would run up to me and tell me something in sign. Typically when I go to a photo shoot like that, I try and make a round of the children so they get used to me, so they're not screaming when they sit on Santa's lap, but they're having fun.
Sure.
Try and make friends with them.
Mm-hmm.
You know how much easier it is when you have two little girls running around behind you that are just enthralled by you? And it was a fantastic day. And if nothing else, that day was worth $2,000.
Mm-hmm.
So when people ask me, is the pay good? Oh yeah, the pay is very good.
So, from all of us here at the Popish Plot, to you and your family, we hope you have a very Merry Christmas. Subscribe, comment, but most of all, know that Jesus loves you. He was born so that we could live. May God bless you all. And until next time,
Live your faith.
Love your faith.
Share that love.